Okay then, Helldivers, we are back. We have got loads to go over today. The latest patch update came in just yesterday with a small hotfix for you guys, as well as Jojo, the QA lead, responding to a load of your questions over on Discord over the last 24 hours with regards to the latest Warbond, patch updates, changes, and so much more. And on top of that, the Bascanator comes to us with a statement coming from J.O.E.L. This one's a big one, so we're going to be diving into everything we've got happening today. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful like button, subscribe with post notifications turned on, it'd be greatly appreciated. And make sure you check out our incredible sponsor, Cheeky Soap. Yep, that's right, we teamed up with the guys from Moist Critical in search for the perfection that was needed for soap. And yes, they actually managed to find it. All natural, smells incredible, and it has a great lather. Your skin will be happy, and so will those around you. Links in the description. Use code CloudPlays at checkout for a cheeky discount. And we're also doing the giveaway here on the channel. If you want to get involved with it, keep an eye on the screen. There is going to be an emoji popping up at a random time in the video. Pop it down in the comment section, and it will enter you in. With that being said, though, let's dive into the game and see what it is that's happening right now. So I don't want to give it too much attention, but there was a quick patch update yesterday. Some people weren't even aware that it happened, as it happened in the background, and they thought it might have been for the Warbond. But it just had general hot fixes for missions before the weekend. Now, they are working on more known issues, but these are going to be a part of a bigger hotfix, which is likely to come in on Tuesday next week. But the likelihood is that there is going to be some more moves that are going to be happening with regards to fixes, changes, balances, and so much more coming into the midst. As Jojo, the QA lead, was talking about a load of stuff with regards to the latest Warbond and rebalancing it actually back out. Somebody posted up a message towards the QA lead stating that they need to have a reevaluation on gun balance because releasing guns that just aren't strong enough causes for less fun. Now, Jojo responded to this one stating that's not toxic at all, but to counterpoint, if a weapon isn't quite up to snuff, it's easier to tune it up than to tune it down. We're looking at the reception. We'll see how it goes. Now, this was a conversation we had yesterday on stream and on our review of the Warbond. If you haven't seen that, the link is just at the top right corner, or you can check it out on the channel. But they are obviously in a position now where they are pretty scared to nerf based on the way that history has unfolded, where they would release Warbonds in top tier condition and then nerf them because they were too much. We now have the opposite effect of that now, so they're now bringing them in too low and then they're tuning them up because apparently that's easier. I have no idea, but people will always respond better to a buff than a nerf. This is obviously something that has been a conversation, especially with the latest weapon that has released in the new Force of Law Warbond. So let me know what your guys' opinions are of it in the comment section below and whether it is that you think it needs a buff or not and how you would buff it. Next up, though, there are some issues happening with the Warbond itself in terms of the visualization of the Warbond. The K9 uses the libdog video, and the de-escalator actually has no video to it at all. Jojo has obviously just posted up that it is getting fixed, but it wasn't worth delaying the Warbond for. So could you imagine if they'd actually have delayed that Warbond for the basis of those videos? That would have been absolutely hilarious. Not only that, though, but somebody has been speaking about the unguided sights on the Warrant. They actually are not working properly at all. Obviously, we had an issue where the line of sight was not aiming where the bullets were actually going to, and this weapon seems to be suffering the same thing. It has a massive, massive issue with where it is that it's aiming at versus what it is that it's actually hitting. So, in tangent, basically, what you want to do is use the guided sight on it, for now at least, because the QA leader has stated that they are on it, and we'll likely again see a change, hopefully next Tuesday at this point of the weekend. Now, while we're talking about guided weapons, though, we looked at how that guided weapon could actually work and be helpful for other weapons. The biggest one that people are talking about right now is the stim pistol. Stim pistol enjoyers are obviously going to want to have this. It makes out for a lot easier targeting. I personally don't use it because people move around really quickly, man. The amount of stim pistol shots that I miss is ridiculous, and if it had a guided option, it would just work so much better in my opinion. Well, Jojo, the QA lead, made a simple statement that says stim pistol enjoyers have been noted. That's all I'll say. So I'm really hopeful for that one because I really hope that the guided option manages to make its way into other different iterations, such as the stim pistol. I think it'd be absolutely great if we could actually have that come into play. It'd be a really good quality of life change. And while we're talking about changes, there is something that's really broken at the moment. One of our Reddit moderators, Lazis, has actually posted up on there with regards to a double backpack glitch. Yep, there is seeming to be a bit of an issue at the moment where you can fall into a glitch where the utilization of 2 backpacks is actually viable. It's not yet known as to how to reproduce it, or at least in my knowledge, it's not yet known to how to reproduce it, but it is definitely something that's happening as of right now. I'm going to be looking into it a little bit later today, but it is definitely floating around if you guys so wish. The link is down in the description to go and check that one out. But we're going to be diving into what it is the Baskinator had to say, because somebody was talking about the percentages in the major order and the way that depletions are working on planets. Somebody stated, do we know why Inari started at 0% despite having made progress before it falls? Now, the Baskinator actually responded to this with quite a large statement, as she had to go to J.O.E.L to get an exact statement from it. But it states, yes, I woke up to a lot of questions about this. I talked to the game master, and basically this because of an additional of the cities to the meta game and how that affects planet health. I asked him for a little more clarity in this case. Now, what J.O.E.L actually stated was previously when a defend event was lost, the planet would start at 50% liberation. We considered that planet contested since the defend event was lost, but the cities now coming into mix, planets can be overrun if a defend event is lost, which changes the starting health. This is part of the balance changes we're working with in order to have the introduction of the city system work well. We're looking into the best solution of things like this now that cities are on the table. It's kind of hard to predict how some of these live features will look, even with all the simulations the metagame team runs. As always, your feedback is noted and being passed on to them though. Now, this is obviously huge, and this was part of the reason I'm going to presume as to why it is that the mega cities were not injected into the game straight away, although I think a lot of us are pretty much okay with the factor that the depletion rates are maybe a little bit skewed and they need to be balanced out and worked on at the moment, as long as we actually still get to enjoy the content. For me personally, there's more than enough Helldivers playing the game right now to be able to combat the fact that the percentages are probably a bit skewed after a defense is lost. That's just my personal opinion, but let me know yours in the comment section below. With over 100,000 Helldivers playing the game at any one time, I personally think that we can combat against that well until they manage to find what the balance actually looks like. Overall, though, the game's in a really good position. It seems to have had a very good outcome, and it seems that the developers are really taking on board everything that everyone is saying. I think if it's one thing that we can take into consideration when it comes to the Arrowhead development team, is that they are consistently watching, whether it's videos, Reddit posts, or Discord conversations, and they are taking note of everything that it is that is changing, happening, and needs changing in the future. My biggest thing is that I hope this Warbond gets a little bit of an attention piece, just like we did with the Masters of Ceremony, where they had the passive change on the armor. I'm hoping that they retract some of the pieces for this new Warbond and make some alterations towards that one, because, again, based on what I actually put in my review of the Warbond, it's definitely needed. And based on the comments that you guys have been putting in the Discord and the comment section of the videos, I think that you guys are all likely to agree. With that being said, though, that's all we've got time for today. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button. We're going to dive into your top comments from the previous video where we actually tested out everything in the Warbond and gave you guys my opinion on it. This first one states right here, they have basically no problem in nailing the aesthetics of a Warbond, but when it comes to the usefulness, it often comes up short. Now, again, I obviously have to take you back to the way that Arrowhead did Helldivers beforehand, where Warbonds came out really overpowered. They were incredible. We loved it, but it was not viable for game health. And then they nerfed them, made them all balanced, and people got a bit arsy about the fact that things were being nerfed so quickly after receiving them. This happened for quite a few Warbonds for months and months on end, till they eventually did it the other way around. So now we'll see buffs come into play instead of nerfs, meaning that they generally come in a little lackluster at the launch, and hopefully will be a bit more viable later down the line. Not ideal, not the way that I think that we need to do it, because sometimes weapons can just be really good. It's okay for it to be good. Moving into the next comment, though, it states right here, so the last Warbond was mostly drip. This one is support, so I'm hoping the next one will be hard hitting. Now, I do agree with you. Yes, the last one was pretty much a drip Warbond. It was the roleplay aspect, and this one is more of a support slash CC, also known as crowd control, so it kind of works in a weird narrative. The next one I'm hoping will be an absolute banger, so we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. And this last one here states, the armor should have had melee hit resistance. It would have made more sense for crowd control since you're consistently getting jumped by bugs, voteless, and other mobs. Now, I do think think there are quite a few different ideas as to what the passive should have entailed. Maybe a stun resistance or an arc resistance alongside everything, but I understand that the way that it worked was pretty much a ballistic padding vest. It pretty much says it in the title of the passive itself, which was to defend the chest, which a lot of police force will usually have within a ballistic padding vest. It works to the way of how the styling of the Warbond actually is. So it makes a bit more sense to me, but I would prefer it if it had some other stuff in there. With that being said, though, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful like button, subscribe, post notifications turned on. I appreciate all of your faces, but as always, up until the next time, I'll see you in the clouds.